to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. Thanks so much for being here today. I greatly appreciate your time. I have a fabulous show for you again, which I hope that you enjoy. We're going to highlight the Madison Lyric Stage, which is based in Madison, Connecticut. And Marc Deaton, the artistic director, is my guest today. And Marc, thanks so much for being here. I greatly appreciate it.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And I know that you are very busy as well, so I want to thank you on behalf of my viewers for taking the time.
As I said, it's my pleasure.
Okay, let's inform them. Why don't you tell us about yourself? We'd love to get to know you.
Well, by trade, I've been an opera singer most of my adult life, and in my early education, I studied theater and music in college, and then decided that the best medium for me was probably opera. And so I moved to Europe at a pretty early age, in my early 20s, and pursued an opera career and had some very nice successes, and I feel very blessed about that. And I've been singing for about 35 years, and I'm based in New York and in Madison, and over the last 9 years have been artistic director for a company that my husband and I founded, and we perform, we like to take masterpiece works from all of the different genres, be it musical theater, straight theater, opera, concerts, and we like to show them in a different way, and in a very up-close, personal way, very interactive way. Sometimes we'll take pieces, because I come from opera, where it's usually a very, very large setting and a very large audience, very large orchestra, and very distant. I wanted to get back to my roots of very, very up-close theater. And I think bringing pieces that are typically designed for such a large audience to a very close audience is really quite a wonderful experience. So that was kind of how we evolved our company, and now we're in our 9th season.
One of the thoughts that came through my mind was your childhood. Did you think as a young person, small person, that music was going to be your pathway? Did you think that you were going to be a singer?
Well, you know, I love that question, because I didn't really come from a musical family. My family was not arts-oriented per se, but I always sang. And I was one of those really annoying children who was just kind of always singing and making up plays in my room and in the backyard. And I grew up in Southern California, and so I was, I think, aware of the arts industry, but I knew that I wanted to do something, but I wasn't really sure what. I guess because my exposure as a child was more to film and television, I thought that I would probably do more commercial type of performing. But then as I progressed and went to college, and afterwards and became aware of things, ballet and opera and classical music, it kind of showed itself to me, and I embraced it. I lived in Vienna, Austria for a number of years, and that's where I started my career. And it just, the doors opened to me, and I couldn't stay out of it.
So you had mentioned acting before, or theater, etc. Did that move you at all, or did you just know right away that singing was going to be it?
Well, the interesting thing about opera to me is that it's a combination of both singing and acting. So I'm very grateful for my early experiences in theater, because I think it really developed me as an actor, as a performer, and that only enhanced my abilities in opera. And throughout my career, I always kind of longed to also get back to spoken theater. I was very lucky to work with a number of really magnificent directors over the years who also did theater, and who wanted to work with me because they liked the fact that I incorporated the drama in opera. I mean, opera is a music drama. It should be fully enacted as well as sung. So to me, I've really never looked at them as being that separate. Like it's just performing is performing, and it's just one genre or another. And that's why I've taken on the insane task with our company of doing all these genres. Most companies would never do all of these genres at once, but I do them because that's my background and my passion. All of those genres, I'm equally passionate. It's like equally loving your children, you know.
One of the things that I mentioned to you before we went on the air was just how important to me the viewer is. And I like to ask all of my guests, what is your advice if somebody would like to pursue opera, being a tenor, singing, traveling, performing? What would your advice be? Do they study? Do they just get out there and perform? What are your thoughts?
Well, I love that question, and because I do also teach, I it's a complicated answer. I think it really depends. If you're interested in classical music or classical singing, or even musical theater, but I should say stage singing, as opposed to say the popular music scene, because I think that the criteria and the needs in popular music are different. I think in classical singing, you have to prepare yourself in a lot of different ways. One is musically. And I think one of the best things if you're a young person and you want to develop a career on the stage as a singer, the best thing to do is learn about music, learn an instrument, play the piano, learn how to read music and understand music. And then if you're interested in opera, study languages, study culture, study history, geography, because there's such a wealth of knowledge that needs to be absorbed, I think, in order to portray these characters on a stage. And if you don't have the background in these eras, then it makes it more difficult. And then the other part of it is to find a really, really good, healthy teacher who can help you develop a technique that you can maintain on your own. People have this idea that, well, I go to a voice teacher, twice a week, and they're going to save me. They're going to make it all work for me. But at a certain point in the professional industry, yes, you still study and you still work on your craft, but you're on your own. They're not up on the stage with you. And so I often say this to my professional students, I want to teach you to be able to do this on your own, but to have a truly secure, clean technique and good health. I think that those are the things that you need, the physical things that you need. The other part of it is to just be really strong and really sure of who you are, and not allow people in the industry to decide for you who you are based on how you look, what age you are, what gender you are, what voice type you are, but to just decide and know who you are and have always individuals around you that you can trust, that are not making money from you.
Now, you had mentioned that you had lived in Vienna, and is there a place that you like to perform in the world? Is there an opera that you love to perform that made you happy? I mean, is there anything that sticks out in your mind that you'd love to share with us?
Sure. Well, I loved Vienna because Vienna has this mystique of culture and music, and you can still even now kind of feel that Beethoven was there and that Mozart was there, and even Wagner. And then also there's kind of a modernist movement of Schoenberg and Berg and composers and artists of the early 20th century. And so there's this kind of combination of modernism and traditionalism that I like very much about Vienna. I also lived in Berlin and a number of cities throughout Europe. I think I knew that I wanted to live in Europe and sing in Europe. Part of that is that the majority, the bulk of my repertoire was German language opera, and that was Wagner and Strauss. It just happened to be that my instrument was well designed for that material. I also sang a lot of British music, Benjamin Britten, and then of course standards by Puccini and Verdi. I loved singing Italian opera, but because of the base of my repertoire being German, it put me into German-speaking countries, and that also was because the system of arts and theater in Germany is much more organized. There are more jobs there because there's more interest there and more knowledge, more education. And so the state theaters that are subsidized by the state, there are more opportunities to have a consistent engagement there. So for me, it was just a great opportunity to advance my career. I mean, I also sang in the States all throughout most of the major theaters, and I enjoyed all of them. In terms of roles, of course, my Wagner roles and the roles by Benjamin Britten, probably Peter Grimes, which I've done a number of times, and Parsifal of Wagner, Tristan of Wagner, and then perhaps one of my most favorites is Siegfried. And one of the reasons I love Siegfried so much is that he's so young and unctuous and knows no fear.
Why don't we talk about the Madison Lyric Stage? It's very interesting to me that you would settle in Madison, Connecticut. What brought you out this way? Why the name? And what do you folks recommend to your audience to come and see?
All great questions. Well, my husband and I settled in Madison originally as a weekend home, like so many New Yorkers invading New England. And I had sung in New England many years ago, and had kind of fallen in love with Madison just because of the beaches, and it's a very bucolic, lovely village. And so when we bought our house here, and we were here for the weekends, and when people find out that you're a singer, they want to hear you. And so we started doing little house concerts and stuff just for friends. And we have a big barn behind our house, and it just seemed to be the right thing to do. We just started doing smaller performances and then bigger performances. And then eventually it was just no longer suited to the barn in terms of a main season when it looked like it could be a real company. And so we scouted around a number of different venues. And for the last 3 years, we've been within the historic Deacon John Grave House in Madison, which is right down near the Green. And it's very challenging in certain ways, but quite exciting. So for 2 years, we were actually within the house. So we would take these very large pieces and put them in these small rooms and an audience of maybe 30 to 40 people. And we would literally move from room to room, and the audience would go with us. So it created some wonderful challenges and exciting moments for me as a director to create those pieces. Now, since because of the pandemic, we decided early on that we would be on the grounds of the Deacon John Grave House, but in fact under a tent. So it can be outdoors, and in many ways it's exciting because the tent is much bigger than the rooms inside the house. So we're going to develop a whole theater that's outdoors starting in June, so all 3 of our main season. But we still do some concerts and small performances within the barn. A play that I wrote during the pandemic, we just produced within the barn for our subscribers, and I love the intimacy of it. And the name itself came when we first decided to do a production. We were trying to think of a name, and we're based in Madison. And to me, using the word lyric applies. Opera is often referred to as lyric theater because it's lyrical, it's sung. So it's kind of an old-fashioned use of that term. So Madison Lyric Stage seemed to cover all of it, and it stuck.
Okay, let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You're tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide, it provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
Spending time outdoors has never felt more valuable. Whether it's exploring nature or relaxing in your yard, let's do it responsibly. Before going out, check for closures and fire restrictions. Practice social distancing, even when outside and on the trail. Back at home, if burning yard debris, keep your pile small. And no matter where you are, be sure to properly extinguish any outdoor fire. Drown, stir, drown, feel. We're all in this together. Help keep our safe places safe.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and again, thanks so much for being here today. I greatly appreciate it. Well, we're going to continue on with our conversation with Marc Deaton, who's the artistic director of the Madison Lyric Stage based in Madison, Connecticut. And Marc, you mentioned the pandemic. How has that affected what you have been doing at the Madison Lyric Stage?
Well, of course, it did have its impact. We've been very lucky compared to, well, of course, humanity at large, but within the arts community, we're very small. And so the impact of not producing is somewhat different for us. We're not as dependent on, for example, if you have a large theater, like so many of the theaters here in Connecticut, they're very dependent on filling up a rather large theater, be it 500 seats or 1,000 seats. And so for them to reopen at 50% or 25% is just really not viable economically. And to have to make so many structural changes. Well, we don't have now it was very obvious from the beginning that we could not go back into the Deacon John Gravehouse. It's way too small and it would be too close. So we decided very early on, we did an evening of Andrew Lloyd Webber last March, and it was literally 2 weeks before the shutdown. And so once we saw that the shutdown was going to be for some time, I decided right then and there that let's go back outside. We'll put up a tent. And we're lucky because we have a wonderful relationship with Taylor Rental of Brantford and Orange. And they're very helpful at giving us the right tent and to make all of that possible. And now, of course, many companies who thought that they were hoping that they would be able to open this season are having to be outdoors as well. So for us, it was a quick adjustment, and we did it early on so that we could plan for it. So that, I think, is a big difference. There are also many protocols that we've had to understand and research. And on top of that, they're constantly changing. I mean, when I was first planning the season, the vaccinations were not available. Whereas now, my entire company has already been vaccinated. And not that I mandated it, but they're just already, it's done. And so that changes things a little bit in terms of the performers themselves. The audience, we're still requiring masking, even though we're outside, just because I just think it's the right thing to do, and we have to continue to stay safe. But of course, the pandemic has created a lot of anxiety, but I think that people are anxious to see theater again and to get out of the house. And so it's been, in some ways, I don't want to say that the pandemic has been good for us at all, but as people are starting to buy tickets, people are wanting to come. They're wanting to get out and to see good art. And I'm very, very grateful for that.
One of the things I'd like to talk about, which I don't want to forget, is your website. It is filled with amazing information that I just enjoyed getting to know all about you and the Madison Lyric Stage itself. Why don't we talk about it? Tell us what the viewer will find when they come to visit it.
So are you talking about my personal website or the Madison Lyric Stage website?
The Madison Lyric Stage website.
Yeah, I figured. I just wasn't sure. So I'm very excited because we just redesigned our website, and our webmaster and we designed it together. And I just think it's very important that a website show you who we are. And there are a lot of there's film, there are video, there are a couple of very nice videos that show many of our productions and where we've come from, and where we're going. It has all of the information about the 3 shows that we're doing, the productions that we're doing this year. In June, we start with The Sun Sits Low, which is an evening of Stephen Sondheim's music. So we have 14 singers and a combo. It's a review, if you will, of really just the best of Stephen Sondheim's canon. We've done a lot of music by Stephen Sondheim. We've done 3 of his full-length productions. And so the evening of Stephen Sondheim was actually one of the first things that we did in the barn. And so we thought it would be a good time to bring that back and do, it's just very positive and beautiful music. And in addition to some of his most famous songs, Send in the Clowns, etc., we're also doing a number of really remarkable ensembles that don't often get played in these kinds of review evenings. But I have 14 really fantastic singing actors, and so we're going to bring that in June. Then in July, I'm very excited. We're doing Mark Crowley's landmark play, The Boys in the Band, which is a searingly beautiful play. It was written in 1968, and then in 1969 was made into a lovely movie, with William Friedkin directing. And it's about the pre-Stonewall idea of gay life in New York. It was recently made it came to Broadway for the first time 2 years ago, and then was made into a Netflix film just last season. And I have a stunning cast. I'm not in that one. I'm directing all 3 productions, but I'm not in that one. And it's just a stunning cast of great actors. And I think that I'm excited for the Shoreline to see this play. And then in the fall, we do our opera. So we're doing a double bill of Puccini's Suor Angelica, which is a searingly beautiful piece. And it's coupled with a rather unusual one-person piece called Erwartung, which is by Schoenberg. And it's all being set in an asylum. So they kind of mix together. And I'm actually portraying the main character in Erwartung. I'm not in Suor Angelica because I don't look really great in a nun's habit, but that's our season. And so it's, I think, something for everyone. And what's been exciting is as people buy our subscriptions, they're wanting to come to everything. People who maybe didn't grow up with opera, but they're coming to our operas, or maybe never liked musicals, but they come to our musicals. And they're not only coming to see the works, but they're now getting to the point where they're coming to see each other. Because we have very small audiences. We want it that way. We want to stay small. So typically it's between 40 and 50 people a performance, and we'll do perhaps 8 performances of each piece. And it keeps it very intimate and interactive.
As we move into the rest of 2021, 22, 23, will you stay in Madison? Will you grow? Do you have any kind of plans for the future?
Well, we have lots of plans for the future. We're investigating wanting to have a more permanent home. And we're in a lot of talks as to where exactly that will be. It really depends on what's available, but we're looking into having some type of a permanent structure, whether it be completely outdoors or indoors. And we're in a lot of talks right now. And we are growing because people have responded so well to what we're doing and the work we're bringing. We are a professional company, but we try, while we have some people who will come and join us from New York, there is so much talent in Connecticut, and we truly, it's important to me to work with an ensemble, to where it's a family. Now, people like families sometimes move away, or they move on to, if they're very young, they move on to other organizations or other locations. People retire, etc. But so it's constantly fluid. At the same time, there becomes a standard and a certain quality that is unique, I think, to us. And I feel very, very blessed to have people around me and to work with who are like this. So yeah, there's a great amount of growth planned, and it just kind of depends on how those logistics can come forward.
Well, we are starting to run out of time. What are your closing thoughts for the viewers? I know they're getting to know you, they're getting to know that the Madison Lyric Stage exists. What would you like them to know about?
I would just want to say, embrace art. Art is the great nourisher. Without art, I don't think we can have life as we know it. And especially when we come through these very difficult times, art can really save you. And come and see us, go to our website, get a ticket, bring a friend, and just come and experience it.
Well, you've been wonderful to spend some time with us today. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And we've been talking with Marc Deaton, the artistic director of the Madison Lyric Stage based in Madison, Connecticut. Please go see them. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned into Arts and Entertainment. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'll see you next time.